Welcome everyone to the Virtual World Education Consortium. This is our expert panel here today as part of our expert speaker series. And today we'll be talking about the best practices in education, the VWBPE. It was a series as part of the Virtual World Education Consortium. But we have a bunch of experts who actually attended that conference, and we'll give a summary today of what they saw and the takeaways that they have from that. Today's presentation will be a little shorter than usual. We're going to go about 45 minutes, so everyone will have 8 or 9 minutes to present, and then we'll have the discussion at the end within the hour in order to make it more convenient. There are a few things to look at around the facility also to keep in mind. If you look over here, you can see the next speaker, Playable Journeys, How Games Engage the Mind Through Stories, with Dr. Letitia De Leon, also Letty Luckystone here. And if you look on this side, you can also see that we'll have Midori Linden, representing Linden Labs, coming in on the second Wednesday here at 9 in Second Lifetime. And then if you go back onto our poster, on the back here, you can also get the slides for today when you're ready, if you want to have some reference points that you can take with you. So really glad to have you all here. And just to briefly introduce, we have Marie Vans, Roropillow, and I'll be hosting, but then Valibrarian, Magua, Theriac, and John O'Connor, all here today presenting their findings and takeaways from the event. If you need closed captioning, then please look for the stream, and we will have a little discussion and answer time at the end, hopefully. And I think maybe I've covered the most critical points. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, Rose, you've got the floor.
Okay, so hi everyone. My part of today's panel is recapping the topic of AI from this year's conference. And I think what really came across for me is that AI is not just something in the future, but something that's here already. It's evolving fast, and educators are and need to actively be shaping how we work with AI. So the first theme that emerged that I want to touch on is AI for immersive and personalized learning. I think making virtual worlds more immersive and personalized really came up throughout the conference, like in the session on VW illustrations and AI avatars, which showed how 3D dioramas and interactive avatars can really bring case studies to life and replace flat static slides that we're used to. The idea is that students don't need to create or manage their own avatars to benefit from the richness of virtual worlds. The teacher can bring those worlds to them, like stepping into a living, breathing diagram. Then there was another session that touched on this called CyberX. It's a cybersecurity training platform built inside Second Life that uses AI to customize each learner's experience just on the fly. The system adapts as students work through different challenges, fine-tuning the difficulty and focus in real time. And students dive into realistic simulations from ethical hacking, digital forensics, network defense, getting not just theory, but active skill building practice in a kind of gamified, immersive environment. We also saw immersion and personalization in language learning. So there was a session called Humanizing Immersive AI, which explored how AI companions in VR can support English language learners with conversational practice and personalized feedback, like having a private tutor who's available 24/7. A similar thread ran through the session immersive AI companion design, which looked at how language educators are building AI companions in platforms like Frame VR and Second Life to enhance language learning, multiple languages. And the focus was on designing AI that can adapt to learners' needs, making lessons more engaging, supporting a wide range of learning styles. And this AI-powered learning came up in other sessions too, like museum docents in interactive exhibits across virtual worlds, and also AI-driven leadership activities in the session, Transitional Growth of Leaders. So I think the big picture in this theme is that AI is helping educators bring learning to life. It's tailoring it to the individual, breaking down barriers of time, space, and even competence. It's like we're moving closer to a truly student-centered education where learners get what they need when they need it, really individualized. A second theme that I want to touch on that came up is AI's role in literacy and critical thinking. I think we saw that AI is changing what we even mean by literacy. There were two sessions, AI, meta-literacy, and digital citizenship, and the AI and meta-literacy boxing match that really leaned into this exploration. They looked at how AI is transforming literacy from just reading and writing into something bigger. Critical thinking, ethical responsibility, and digital awareness are all really like key points in how we're viewing literacy now. That means we need new skills to understand, question, and responsibly use these tools. Both of these sessions argued that true literacy today is about more than just consuming information. It's about being conscious of how information is created and how AI is reshaping that entire landscape. As a side note, the picture on the slide here behind me was created by uploading a picture from the Second Life boxing match to ChatGPT and asking it to make a lifelike version of the image. I'll also mention the session, Navigating Transitions Through Community Learning, which explored how community leaders in Second Life are working with evolving technologies like AI-generated content and bots to strengthen peer learning and collaboration. And this highlighted both new opportunities and challenges AI bring to digital communities. I think this is a wake-up call if we want to raise digitally literate, empowered students. We can't ignore AI. We need to teach students to navigate it thoughtfully, to recognize both its opportunities and its blind spots. And then the final theme that I want to touch on that came up is generative AI and practical applications. The session, Transforming Engagement with Generative AI Tools, explored how AI can breathe new life into a very wide range of subjects, reading, math, art, music, by making lessons more dynamic, more creative, more interactive. Instead of thinking of learning as just a singular linear path, David Lyle, one of the presenters, used this great metaphor of a rope where foundational and advanced skills get woven together in parallel, which helps students understand complex ideas faster and more naturally. Another session, Improving Writing Through AI Feedback, got into the really nitty-gritty of research, comparing AI-generated feedback to traditional instructor feedback for student writing. It's the kind of data we really need to understand the impact of AI, looking at whether AI really can support skill building in meaningful ways and where it falls short. And then in one of the quadriviums, the conversation really zoomed out to the bigger picture of how AI can transform education by tailoring lessons, streamlining tasks that drain teachers' time, and deepening student engagement. So I think that the takeaway for this theme is that AI is already transforming the classroom. It's not a magic bullet, but it is a powerful tool. And the key is making sure it's used to empower both educators and students and not replace human connection or critical judgment. I would highly recommend watching the YouTube recordings of the conference, as there were so many nuanced ideas and feelings that came up about AI. What I really noticed was a shared understanding that AI's role in education is not to take over, but to enhance what we already do. And this, it could be through personalized learning, reshaping literacy, new creative tools, just the list goes on, but AI can potentially help us build classrooms and virtual worlds that are more engaging, more inclusive of all different learning styles, and more responsive to learners' needs. I think the biggest key came up over and over is that we need to be active participants as this happens in order to shape our future with AI. That is all for me. I'm not sure who's next.
All right, thanks very much. And I think, Val, you're next up. And really appreciate you being here and look forward to yours as well. And thank you, Rose.
All right, thank you, everyone. Hello there. This year, VWBPE launched a brand new innovative idea, and this was called the Speed Build. So for the Speed Build, an individual or a group of 4 people were to be given 4 hours to create an educational, immersive learning experience in 3D. So I entered a group of 4. It was Namara, Buffy Beal, Dee Dee, Beaker, and myself. Now, Namara, you can see in the picture behind me, created team outfits for the MetaMind Builders team, which made it sort of a fun, engaging, and collaborative project. We were really excited about this opportunity. We had no idea what to expect. This is the first year this has been done. So each of us brought a variety of strengths to the challenge, which we hope will continue in the future. We would not be given, we realized this, we were told up front, we would not be given the assigned challenge until the day of the build. So we had to think of how any particular topic might align to whatever the challenge would be that we'd be given. So the day of the challenge, when we were given the 4 hours to build, we were brought to an atoll, pictured on the slide here, filled with water. And at the atoll, the assignment was given for us to build an escape room. Now, I already had a topic in mind since some of you know my research area. I've been researching changing literacy, meta-literacy, and how literacy is changing in digital culture. So when I mentioned that, the team took to that idea, took it to heart as the focus of the build. Later, after having spent the time doing this build, we realized this saved us a lot of time, because just coming up with a topic, that could take a lot of brainstorming. And the more people you bring together to collaborate on a project, the more ideas get flowing, which can make it difficult to narrow the focus. So immediately, my teammates began thinking about how to create an escape room while I explained verbally the 4 domains of meta-literacy, which are metacognitive, cognitive, affective, and behavioral. I was amazed by the variety of skills that we all brought together as we began pooling our building materials, pulling things out of our inventories. I pulled out the color scheme of meta-literacy, and then the team took off with it. they began to design, and you can see on the slide, 4 areas on the atoll with the actual color schemes that match the colors on the metaliteracy.org website. Buffy, Nam, and Dee Dee began building 4 caves, and you can see one of the caves popping up on this slide. And these caves you would be trapped inside of them. They would be entered through a variety of doors inside the build. Each room, we decided, would have a question. And that question that they would answer would correspond to the 4 domains: metacognitive, cognitive, affective, and behavioral. And then when answered correctly, the door would open and the learner could move to the next room. Well, the building team quickly matched skill sets and began to delegate tasks, since all 4 of the members of this team were not new to Second Life. Perhaps newcomers without prior building skills would have found this challenge much more difficult. Objects were placed in each room, the 4 different rooms, and they served as metaphors for each of the domains. For example, the affective domain, which deals with the learner's emotions. There was a teddy bear placed in the room and hearts around the room. Other objects included, in some of the other rooms, tools, a hammer, and a workbench for the behavioral domain, which is what you do with what you learn. And for the metacognition, which is thinking about your thinking, there was a floating cloud, sort of as your thoughts. And for cognition, that's our knowledge as we learn, there was a brain. And these are just a few of the examples. There were several other objects in each one of the rooms. Using interaction by walking around, finding the objects, looking for the question in order to find a way out to escape, and clicking on an interactive button to get the correct answer, we were striving to illustrate immersive learning in an engaging way. Here's just one example of a question, and this one is for the cognitive domain, which you see was on the floor of the room. Cognitive deals with our knowledge. So the participant was asked, AI will know more than us in the near future, and we can rely on it to enhance our knowledge. True or false? Later, after the build was done, I returned a few days later, and I overheard some participants inside the room talking about this question and talking about how it was thought-provoking. So I found that kind of validating. When the question was answered correctly, which is false, AI provides information quickly, but it is not always reliable, the door opened. So after successful completion of all 4 areas of the build, the participant can escape. They're teleported out on top of the cave, out of the traps, and they receive a prize in a treasure box. The prize we chose was a metaliteracy trophy. So one of the main purposes of teaching and learning right here in Second Life and in other virtual worlds is the ability to create 3D spaces, create immersion in 3D metaphors, to build experiences rather than simply listen to a lecture or view slides. Teachers and students, every single one of us can build. The human brain thrives on creativity, and Second Life provides a way to work, create, and learn in 3D with all the tools that we need right at our fingertips in one amazing interface. So I do hope to archive this speed build and perhaps make it better in the future. It is not perfect, done in 4 hours, but we learned a lot by creating it. And I think by showing our students that we're not perfect professional 3D builders, we can encourage them to go for it. We learn by making mistakes, and 3D worlds are dynamic, ever-changing environments. If you mess up a building in the physical world, you've lost time, labor, and money. But not so here. You've gained experience. You can create models, prototypes, engaging experiences, metaphorical builds like symbolic modeling, which some of you are familiar with by Marley Molina. The building possibilities are just unlimited. So perhaps the VWBPE conference organizers We'll hear feedback from the individual speed builders who were participants too. Since my team was the only team of 4 this first year, it is my hope that the conference organizers will consider offering this building challenge once again in the future. So there's my section on speed building.
All right, thank you so much, Val. Great presentation. And the next one is going to be speaking on EdTech, Marie Vans, or amvans Lapis. So, Marie?
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Marie Vans in real life and amvans Lapis in virtual worlds. And today I'm going to be talking about the theme of educational technology. Imagine that next semester your students log in not to a static course shell, but to a living landscape where lab benches fizz, avatars debate in 6 languages, and an AI librarian hands them custom curated sources. That is the collective vision that emerged from this year's Virtual World's Best Practices in Education conference. We already know that Second Life is more than a chat room with a bunch of pretty prims. It's our campus, our lab, our maker lab, our retreat for reflective practice. But at the 2020-2025 VWBPE conference, presenters showed how new layers, AI, cross-platform bridges, headset VR, and data dashboards are turning our familiar regions into next-generation learning ecosystems. In the next few minutes, I'm going to tour the 5 educational technology trends that tied this program together and show how they're already shaping course design. So the first one is the backbone, the persistent virtual worlds, a campus that never closes, right? These virtual worlds like Second Life and OpenSim, Kay McLennan actually walked us through walk-around simulations that have evolved into full 3D dioramas for economics and history surveys. Students can pop in during Zoom breakouts and interview an NPC or a non-player character store owner and leave with a screenshot portfolio. Meanwhile, Skipper Abel's Living Carbon-Free Island showed renewable energy dashboards that update in real time as learners flip virtual breakers. Note cards can drop automatically into their inventories for formative checks, and every click pushes a record to a MySQL database for learning analytics. This matters because these worlds provide a sense of place, labs, studios, galleries, and more that learning management systems never will, and yet they still run on laptops, everyday laptops. The second major theme was head-mounted virtual reality, or putting bodies into the lesson. When presence can be visceral, VWBPE presenters strap on headsets. Day Miami's Unity-built dinosaur dig let museum visitors crouch beside a stegosaurus and then overlay geographical maps that predict where to excavate next. Robbie Rattan, one of our keynote speakers, Michigan State seminars meet weekly in VR so communication theory students can feel social presence effect as they study them. Post-class surveys show lower multitasking and higher contextual memory than Zoom. So the main takeaway here is that VR excels when learning outcomes depend on scale, embodiment, or spatial reasoning, and it plays nicely with hybrid models, folding back into Zoom or Canvas whenever it's needed. The third main trend here was artificial intelligence, which we've already seen several times now already. It seemed to be the main theme. And this idea that avatars will answer back, right? So that was the most talked about layer. And we saw 3 different flavors. We saw guide bots. So Brian Perry's Crossworld Museum spawn a large language model powered docent beside every artifact. And you can ask in Spanish and get an answer in Spanish with citations. The second flavor is AI companions for language learning. So Erlina Azur showcased the AI Totaler framework, where an English learner practices persuasive travel pitches with a synthetic travel agent that adapts prompts on the fly. And then the third flavor is generative AI authoring. So Renee Cobra's design course uses Adobe Firefly to prototype logos and then require students to annotate the exact prompts for transparency. So educators here, they emphasized humanizing AI, so scripting empathy routines, curbing hallucinations, and training students to critique machine output just as they would any other source. Now, the fourth trend was cross-platform and interoperability, this idea of building something once but being able to teach it everywhere. So a recurring headache is rebuilding the same lesson for every platform. So the solution on display is central database content feeds. One MySQL data stores the slide image, alt text, and quiz. JSON APIs can then pump that data into Second Life, OpenSim, and even Roblox with only a lightweight wrapper script per world. The prize here is sustainability, faculty being able to spend time on pedagogy, not porting assets. The same architecture now drives badge kiosks, chemistry labs, and even VR escape rooms. And then the final one is assessments, analytics, and ethics, seeing what works and guarding what matters. The invisible scaffolding. So AI self-editing tools such as Microsoft Copilot give psychology majors instant grammar feedback, but Laura Gilmore reminded us to pair them with critical thinking rubrics and privacy briefings. Meta-literacy lessons unpacked how to teach evolution of AI and immersive media, metacognitive reflection journals in the metaverse, behavioral objectives that ask learners to remix responsibility, and effective checkpoints that surface bias. So another aspect, another thing that came up was accessibility. So things like WebRTC voice for live captions, Unity scripts that remap locomotion for wheelchairs, and community dashboards that flag where cognitive loads spike. So the conclusion here, or to sum up, is we have painted a cohesive ecosystem. We have persistent worlds that give us 24/7 labs and studios. We have head-mounted VR, which delivers embodiment when place matters. We have humanized AI that personalizes and has mentors and translators. We have interoperable pipelines that keep our workloads sane, and ethical analytics that ensure that tech serves, not surveils our learners. So in short, VWBPE 2025 highlighted the 5 forces reshaping our Second Life classrooms: friction-free experiences, 3D sessions, conversational AI mentors, cloud-served assets, and ethics-first analytics with universal accessibility. Woven together, these elements transform our regions into flexible, inclusive, data-aware spaces where learning flourishes on any screen or headset that the students might bring. As we keep exchanging builds, code snippets, and stories from across the community, these practices will ensure that Second Life remains not just relevant, but a beacon of immersive pedagogy. And that's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Marie, and a great presentation. A lot covered there. As I'm listening, there's so much in each presentation that really reflects on how deep the content is at the VWBPE. Next is Magua, Theriac, and while there's no slide on the screen, Magua, we really look forward to hearing your talk about your building.
Thank you, Medi. And I have listened to all the other presenters, and then they've touched many things that we have been doing. So I'm gonna speak about my own experience of how I basically use those what other speakers has been talking about. I mean, we have been me and my students have been gone through Val's meta literacy lecture for many times by now. Many students have been graduated from that lecture and course. Now I have a student at the university that we hired for to work with us at the VR lab. So even now she is creating learning environments in 3D for us, for the future students, and she's helping us. So that is evolving. That's all I could say about from my past decade of years of experience. And then, as Marie says or mentions that the AI and the Rose was talking about the AI, now we're using AI as well to enhance our learning spaces and experiences with our students. So what I'm going to talk about tonight is actually tonight for me, but today for you guys, and is about how we do things in our own teaching methods and how we do experience our second life learning and teaching in many years. So in my speech during the VWBPE, I shared some key educational theories that guide us designing more engaging, inclusive, and sustainable learning environments. And then we have shared some theories in that sessions, and one of them was the Sugata Mitra's self-organized learning environment, which champions students' autonomy and curiosity-driven learning, and also the experiential learning theory from Kolb's. So I was a student like that as well myself. When I just hear about a lecture, it was not touching me that much. But when I was doing something experiential, when I do try to solve the problem or do an experiment, then it was basically touching me, and then it was in my mind, kind of. Then the last one is the circular pedagogy, which promotes an iterative, adaptive, and collaborative learning processes, another key element in the theory. So those theories we were basically applying, and we were. I was not coming from the teaching area. I'm a business professor, but I was teaching business many years, and I took some courses, formation for pedagogy and so on, but I'm not a scientist of pedagogy or the teacher's learning. But then what I did was I tested things, and I learned by doing many stuff during the years. And more than a decade, we have delivered many courses, graduated many students from here. And what we did in another thing is our students design spaces. They solve problems collaboratively and reflect on their learnings in real time in Second Life. And they experience the learning cycle that Kolb described organically and with enthusiasm. And it wasn't just theory anymore. It was visible in their engagement, their questions, and their creative output. And we were seeing it. We were witnessing it as the teacher or the staff that we are doing here. And one of the most rewarding moments was that watching students who were initially hesitant with technology flourish as they build confidence through collaboration. Right now, the student that I mentioned before is basically an international relations student, a social sciences student. And what she does with us in the VR lab is almost 3D designing, preparing 3D videos, 3D learning spaces, and it's more like an art and technology together, what she's doing. Not very related to her undergraduate at the moment, what she's doing at work for her. But then through 3 courses that she took from virtual world, she became a very enthusiastic about teaching and building spaces for teaching and also 3D design. And she's doing fabulous job right now. So that is very, very important aspect of what we're doing right now. And they're not only learning all those the technologies that we teach or the topics that we're covering in the courses, but they are also getting a profession, the future skills that is needed for the job market maybe. So this shift, knowing the theory to seeing in action, reminded me why we must contribute and the shift from knowing the theory to seeing it in action reminded me why we must continue bridging educational research with authentic practice. So from here, I would like to say that virtual worlds are not just simulations. They are real learning spaces where empowerment, inclusion, and innovation thrive. So when grounded in thoughtful pedagogy, it's really giving us results. We are seeing the results with our students right now, and it's making me very happy and proud of what we were doing so many years in Second Life. So today I don't just speak from research or theory, but I speak from experience. And I invite all of you to keep exploring how immersive, student-centered, and iterative learning environments can transform not just what we teach, but how students learn, build, and grow. The other thing that I would like to express is today we are a group of people here, and next week we are hosting a group of students who are coming from Romania and Germany to Turkey physically, part of a program called Blended Intensive Program. And this Blended Intensive Program is designed by our university and my team in VR Lab, and some of the people here sitting with us. Val is going to teach them, for example, again, about meta literacy. Joan O'Connor will be teaching them about virtual identity. And all of those will be coming to physically to our campus, but we will teach them how to go into the Second Life, create avatar with them, and then reach the globally dispersed teachers or the professors through Second Life. So that allows a lot of opportunities for many people. So that's what we're doing. We're leveraging these opportunities in the past decade and more. And I thank all of the other collaborators in these programs and helping us in this initiative. And there are many others who are sitting among you in the audience or has been helping us in that sense as well. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you very much, Magua. A great discussion, and so glad to see it really bringing out the personal development experience with your team into the discussion. I'd like to also invite John O'Connor to present today, Acuppa Te, and close for us today the panel discussion. After this, we'll have some open discussion, but right now, John, want to give you the floor.
Thank you, Medi. So I'm going to talk today about the shared themes that I picked up from the two keynotes at VWBPE this year. They were delivered by Phyllis West Johnson, who is a professor in the School of Journalism and Mass Communications at San Jose State University. And she's known here in Second Life as Sonicity Fitzroy. And the second keynote was delivered by Rabindra Ratan, who is an associate professor at Michigan State University's Department of Media and Information. He's also director of social and psychological approaches to research on technology interaction effects lab, and a visiting scholar in the Virtual Human Interaction Lab at Stanford. And he's known as Robbie Rote here in Second Life. Full disclosure, I ran out of time while preparing this summary and eventually bowed to the superior powers of ChatGPT to take on the task of identifying the common themes addressed by the speakers. This was actually quite helpful and didn't differ to any great degree from my own understanding. But most helpful was the categorization into 7 broad areas. So firstly, they both spoke about the metaverse and virtual worlds in education, presenting virtual platforms like Second Life and VR as powerful educational environments. And they advocated for immersive interactive spaces that promote experimental and active learning over traditional didactic methods. Ratan emphasized teaching in VR and developing educational methods around presence and interactivity. And he grounded his case in empirical research, showing how VR enhances educational outcomes like engagement, memory, and perceived competence. He teaches full university courses in VR, which are supported by structured pedagogy and data. Phyllis celebrated Second Life, Decentraland, and others as transformative platforms for building new ways of teaching and learning, and she offered a more narrative-driven, culturally contextual vision. She reflected on her decades-long experience using Second Life and promoting virtual worlds as places of social learning, cultural identity, exploration, and professional growth. The key message from both of these was that the metaverse is not a gimmick. It is actually a powerful medium for learning when used intentionally. The second theme that emerged was one that they both explored about the importance of presence, social, spatial, and self, in creating meaningful education experiences. So Ratan described how presence enhances student engagement and memory in VR and breaks presence down into social, spatial, and self-presence. He uses this framework to explain why students in VR tend to be more engaged and remember more. Phyllis reflected on how immersive virtual spaces allow students to identify with avatars and feel personally invested. And she illustrated presence more experientially, talking about how her students connect better when they see avatars that reflect their identities or inhabit meaningful virtual scenarios. So the kind of key outcome from that was that presence deepens learning by making interactions more human, more immediate, and more memorable. The third theme about avatars, identity, and representation. The speakers delved into avatars as tools for identity, for exploration, for self-expression, and behavioral change. Ratan discussed the Proteus effect, showing how avatar characteristics affect behavior and learning, and where people unconsciously conform to the traits of their avatars. He designs research to test how ideal versus real-life avatars affect performance. Phyllis took a cultural approach, stressing how the identity in avatars must be inclusive, especially for marginalized communities. She customizes avatars for students to improve their behavior and emotional investment, and talks about creating student avatars based on real-life images to foster better and engagement. The shared message that emerged was that avatars are not just cosmetic. They shape how people see themselves and how they act in virtual settings. Next, they both raised issues of equity, access, and inclusion in virtual education. Ratan emphasized the need for non-VR options, accessibility tools, and equitable grading practices. He also discussed simulator sickness, the gender gap in comfort with VR, and the need to design for different abilities. So in other words, not just grading based on headset usage. Phyllis critiqued AI and avatar platforms for racial and cultural bias, urging users to demand more inclusive and representative results. She addressed algorithmic bias in AI-generated avatars, and she calls for users to train AI tools to recognize and include diverse identities and perspectives. The message coming from that theme was that without conscious design, immersive technology risks replicating or even worsening existing inequities. The fifth theme about AI and the future of learning revealed that they both see AI as a tool and a collaborator in shaping future learning environments. Ratan specifically mentioned AI in the context of avatars and how he was particularly research driven, noting that AI can help create responsive avatars and simulations to support learning. Phyllis shared an emotional and even spiritual connection to AI as a conversation partner and design collaborator. And while calling for mindful, inclusive engagement with it, she also develops a personal relationship with AI tools like ChatGPT and DALL-E, and asks them philosophical questions and teaches students to use AI for storytelling and content creation. So they both felt that AI is already shaping how we teach, learn, and imagine the future, and recommended that it should be embraced mindfully. The sixth, the penultimate shared theme was an interesting one. It's science fiction as inspiration. Both of them were inspired by science fiction as a roadmap to future technology and education models. Ratan credited Snow Crash and the media equation for inspiring his research trajectory and as blueprints for what to build and study. Phyllis reported that she connects with sci-fi to empowerment and possibility, quoting Octavia Butler, Arthur C. Clarke, and Margaret Cavendish to show how speculative futures can be tools for present transformation. So they both reckoned that sci-fi helps us to prototype the future. It's a designed fiction for educators and technologists alike. And the final theme that emerged was around play, creativity, and imagination in learning. They both champion playfulness and creativity as essential parts of immersive learning. Ratan builds learning activities around interactive scenes, drawing in 3D and role-playing in VR. Phyllis encourages AI-generated art and uses superhero avatars, AI-enhanced storytelling, and cultural identity projects to engage students emotionally and imaginatively, and to spark imagination and investment in student projects. So the shared message from that theme was that play and imagination are not merely luxuries, they're actually catalysts for deeper, more personal learning. So those 7 themes emerged from the 2 keynotes, which I have to say are well worth checking out on YouTube. Both presenters were very engaging and backed up what they were saying through experience and research. And that finishes my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you so much, John. A great wrap to our panel discussion today. Before we go to questions, which may go on a little bit, then I want to point out to your left, as you're looking at the stage, we've got the VWEC anniversary, May 17th, 2025 at 11 a.m. SL time. You can see there Tom Bolstroff and Meryl McBride, a Bryn O exhibit, X-Magic DJ, and Ari will be here, and should be a big event. But now let's get to the questions of the topic and see if we have questions coming in from our panel. And just first, a big thank you to everyone, an amazing review, and also a great presentation together in its own right that gives us a sense where the virtual worlds, the artificial intelligence, and pedagogy in general is going in the world. So thank you all so much. I'll look to the nearby chat for any questions that come up. But also, if you want to use a voice now, it's okay. Or also our panelists, if you have any follow-up or comments, that's really okay too. I think as people are thinking of questions, maybe I'll kick off with an initial question. Just open to the group and see if somebody's ready to respond. I think we see that AI is here and it's having a big effect on our world in terms of how it facilitates and how it makes things interactive in a big way, and also how it can streamline creative activities. But are you seeing anything emerging that is maybe unexpected in AI in your own work that is something you're either dealing with or attempting to leverage that's beyond those things that you were expecting?
I guess I could take that.
Thanks, Marie.
Sure. So what's really interesting is that I teach a class on the use of social virtual reality platforms for teaching and training, and right now we're at the end of the semester and we are doing all of our presentations within the worlds that we have built. Their big project for the semester, they have to build a world that addresses some kind of educational experience. And what I noticed is that some of the students, I didn't at all emphasize AI during the class, for this class. But what I did notice is that many students figured out that they could bring in these chatbots to help them with their experiences, and it made me realize that it was a missing module in my classroom. So I'm definitely going to be reworking the class a bit and making sure that I do address this technology, because I think having those chatbots in there is a big help. And I also want to be able to run some studies on how much they help as well. So yeah, I think it's a really important tool for us here in virtual environments, especially since we can't be here 24/7, but our builds can.
Right. I think that's a big point I'm seeing too, is that the 24-hour thing also helps us open up to asynchronous courses and also larger, more geographically dispersed populations. So collaboration is becoming easier in some ways. So other comments coming from the audience or questions? Looks like something coming in from Tagline. Really good point about how originality, creativity, and plagiarism are really all evolving as concepts as we address these new ways of doing things. That's a great point. So the question is, do any panelists have any predictions for what we will regard as original intellectual products for the future? And will AI become so commonplace that creative work employing AI will seem comparable to wearing reading glasses when one writes?
I think Rose might have something to say about that. She's done more on AI than I have, but I have heard that blockchain will really help in the future by being able to date stamp the origin of content online, but I'm not really familiar with how blockchain is, going to work with AI. So somebody else might have another idea about AI and intellectual property.
Thanks, Val. Yes, Rose, have you got any comments on that, or?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I think it's happening so fast. It's really, really hard to tell where it's going to go. I tend to think that it will be so commonplace. I like that metaphor of the reading glasses because it's just super pervasive all over right now. Like I have colleagues who write their emails with ChatGPT, and we're just at the very, very beginning of it. I think a lot of people are trying to develop ways to distinguish AI-generated writing. One of them is these kind of invisible watermarks throughout the writing that essentially are like in a different color text that you can't see easily. But right now, those could be removed. So I think there are probably companies out there trying to figure out ways to track what's AI generated. But one of the challenges with that is so much of writing is this revision process of it's becoming very collaborative with AI. So AI might write it and then the human revises it and puts it back in the AI in this kind of recursive loop that by the end of it, which one of you did write it? You both wrote it, right? So I think we're going to see a lot of that.
So along with any new technology, there's always a challenge. I was speaking recently at a conference and I referenced Plato writing about the invention of writing and the major concern that caused, because how would people remember anything anymore? And in fact, his worry was that people wouldn't learn properly, because his sense was that you needed to learn through debate and discussion. And an idea we still have today, actually, that learning is communal. It's something we do in communities. But Plato was a clever man, and he knew that writing was going to be inevitable. And he knew also that it was going to change human creativity and human knowledge and human behavior out of all recognition. And I think we're at that stage now with AI. We don't really know what's going to happen. But one of the things we have to do is remain confident that human beings are innately interesting creatures. We are endlessly fascinating to each other. And there is no technology that is ever going to surpass us in interest. So we will find our way through this. And I think, Tag, I really like your analogy that AI will simply become like reading glasses. It will become an aid to us, but it's never going to replace us, because after all, we've created it. And nothing that is created by somebody can really, by humanity, can exceed humanity in terms of its potential or in terms of its interest. But in the interim, we do have to be very careful, because it is changing how we perceive everything. So creativity, originality, the development of new products and so on and so forth are all going to be challenged. And we will have to see changes in legislation. We'll have to see changes in social acceptability and engagement, but they will emerge. Yes, it's all happening very fast, and I think the pace is probably going to increase. But I think as human beings, we can deal with that. And I prefer to look on the opportunities and the excitement that this provides rather than the threats.
Thanks so much, John. And I think we're running just a little bit over, but Magua, if you had some comments you wanted to give, and then Ellie's pointed out Shiloh also has a question after that, and then we'll close. So go ahead, Magua.
Okay. I was just going to make an analogy like that. I think it's similar to the industrial farming and the organic farming right now. Like the industrial farming, you got a lot of products, you got a lot of things, and you need that to feed the whole population, right? But then to keep things going. But then the organic farming is getting more and more valuable, because we want to eat the more nutritious and healthy food, or the apples, let's say. So it's like that. It's like we're industrially farming the information with AI and producing a lot of AI produced materials and using it on our jobs and in daily life. But then at the same time, the things created by people, human, will be more valuable. And I could just give the art, for example, the songs that created by human and with the feelings, personal, human touch in it. So you can feel it. That makes the difference. So I think there's always gonna be a differentiating factor there.
Thanks, Magua. Yeah, I think they're really significant words, and provide us a vision of where to go, and a good metaphor. And the last one is, we've got the comments coming in from Shiloh, and I'm looking for it here in the text.
How difficult was the fast build? Shiloh asks.
Oh, that's it. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Yes, it was very intense, and I think if there's one thing that we would give feedback to the organizers, perhaps more time is necessary because, 4 hours is not a lot of time to build if you don't even know what it is you're building. So I would think maybe have it go over a couple of days or something. They did have a clock that we could stop, so we were able to take breaks if we wanted to, but as long as we did came back and started the clock immediately to make it the 4 hours. So that was what was intense, was the time constraints, because it takes time to discuss what you're going to build and find the materials and all of that. But it was well worth the effort.
Okay. Thank you. And there are great comments coming in from Tagline and others here too as we close out today. I really want to, so you can read the nearby chat there. I want to thank our presenters again. And everyone join me in giving them a round of applause here, maybe in chat. So as we close out the conference, thank you so much.